Hi, I'm Linus at Performance Bike, and today we're looking at how to change out a road tire. So when it comes time to put some new tires on your bike because you've worn them out, the first step you want to do is to let the air out of your old tire. And once all of that air is completely out, you want to start by removing the first bead of the tire. It's a good idea to just kind of go around the rim and give the tire a wiggle. That'll help break the bead of the tire loose from the hook of the rim, and that'll make it easier to take off. Next, you want to grab your tire lever here. Starting at the opposite side from where the valve is, you want to place that hook of the tire lever between the rim and the bead of the tire there, and then just kind of like the name suggests, just sort of leverage that bead out. At this point, if the tire is loose enough, depending on how tight the fit between the tire and the rim is, which just depends on the rim and the tire, you can start by just pushing this tire lever away from you. Just be careful that that hook doesn't slip out. If it is too tight to be able to do that, a great feature of a lot of tire levers is just this little hook here. You can use that to hook along a spoke here, take a second tire lever and work a separate part of the bead loose. But this one, we're lucky, we can just kind of push that along there. As we go along here, you just take that first bead out all the way. Now you want to remove the old tube, and you can just reach inside of there, see where that tube is, and take it out nice and easy. And then you want to finish it off by removing the second bead of the tire. Often once you have the tube out of there and the first bead off, it's going to be loose enough to where you should be able to just take it out with your bare hands. And that's just a matter of just sort of taking it over the bead of that rim there and then just pulling it out. If it is, again, too tight, you can use a tire lever to remove it the same way you did that first tire lever there. So get that tire off of there, and then let's get our new one. Alrighty, so when you're installing a new tire, there's a couple little tricks that will help you down the road if you ever get a flat. One thing, if you've ever seen just about any photograph of any bike ever, they will almost always have the label of the tire, which would be here in this case, in line with the valve of the wheel. There's a couple reasons to do that aren't just cosmetic. The first and the most dramatic one is just that if you do get a flat and you have a piece of debris stuck in your tire, it's great to be able to find the hole in the tube and then have a reference point that you can match back to on the tire. If you have a small staple or a piece of glass or any kind of road debris in there, it makes it a lot easier to find it so you don't get another flat once you put the tube in there. So start by putting the first bead of the tire on and just working it again just with your hands. Use your thumbs to just kind of sort of move that bead up over that rim surface there. All right, so once we have that first bead of the new tire on there, the next thing you want to do is you want to take your tube. Before you try to install the new tube, it's a good idea just to put just enough air in there so that the tube has some shape and a little bit of springiness. You don't want to put too much air in here and really inflate it, or else it's going to be impossible to put in there. We always recommend throwing a fresh tube in there. As you take an old tube and tire out, especially if they're pretty old, when you remove the tube from the old tire, those two rubber surfaces can kind of get stuck together. When you pull the old tube out, it'll thin that material out, more likely to get a flat. And you already have the tire off, might as well throw a fresh tube in there. Always a good idea, save you trouble later. So starting off here, start by just putting that valve through the valve hole of the rim, like so. And then you want to start working the tube into the tire like that. Now it's really important that once you get to this stage, you go through and make sure that that tube is down nice and tucked into the rim cavity. You can see here that the tube here, if I were to try to put that on, it would get pinched and probably give you another flat, whereas over here it's tucked in nice and neatly. So just make sure you go around the entire circumference of the wheel and make sure that that tube isn't sticking out. A lot of the times, especially with a tight-fitting tire, you might go to finish putting the tire on, you won't even realize that you're pinching the tube, try to pump your tire up and you have another flat, and then you got to start all over. So here at Performance, we like fixing things once. So once you have that tire seated nice and in the rim cavity, you want to start again, starting at the valve hole and working your way around. Start putting that bead in again. Whenever possible, you want to use your bare hands for this. We see a lot of folks trying to wedge, sort of pry a tire on with a tire lever. And when you do that, it's really easy to accidentally grab the tube and with those tools and all that force going on, punch a hole in your tube, and then you're starting all over again. So once you get to the end, this is typically the hardest part, and that's when you want to break out that tool and just jam it on there. But the best technique I've seen is to take the fronts of your knuckles here on your palm and kind of place them in that bead. It helps you kind of push up, and then use that material that you have in the tire there to sort of roll it onto the rim like this. So this will make it easier to do that, and again, you're not using a tool, which is just another opportunity to potentially damage your tube. So once you get it to pop on there, then you kind of just go around, wiggle the tire there. That just helps everything seat up. And now you're ready to start inflating the tire. When you start to inflate the tire, it's very important that you go slowly and in small increments. We'll recommend that when you start to pump this up, maybe get it up to 10 or 15 psi and stop. At this point, you want to make sure that the bead of the tire is securely seated onto the rim. A good way to check this is just to give the wheel a spin, and if you see any major dips or deviations in the tire, that's a good sign that something's going on. If you go around and check, you can see the markings on the tire kind of take a dip in right here. If you're seeing big problems, it's a great idea to just go ahead and deflate the tire all the way. Give the tire another wiggle to help everything just sort of even out, and then start inflating it again. You can also, if you're so inclined, find the places that it's low and try to move it around a little bit, but deflating it and reinflating it is typically the best way to go. If you're not seeing any major problems, then you can go ahead and start in small increments taking it up to full pressure, but you never really just want to get it on there and then crank it all the way up, because the tire could potentially unseat and blow off of the rim, which is a very loud sound, very scary, not much fun, and you have to start over. So other than that, if you have any questions, you can always go to your local performance and ask a spin doctor, or call the Spin Doctor tech line, and happy riding.